So welcome to everyone. This is our first event for 2021 in the Living Heritage Sharing Series. I am still and always Jérôme Manasson. I advise the Vice President Research at the U of R around living heritage research in general. Over the past almost year now, and we're afraid to say that, with the help of the Humanities Research Institute, we created this series to develop research and partnerships around living heritage, create a bit of a sense of community. I'm happy that Charity Marsh, who is the new director of the HRI, is able to join us today. So with this series, we hope to bring people together, offer a chance to researchers, those who run programs, those who are just interested in living heritage across the province, to learn more about the work that's being done. So we're alternating between university and community presenters to offer more perspectives and help each of us deepen our understanding of what living heritage can be. I want to acknowledge before we go any further that I'm hosting this event on the traditional territory of the Nihilewak, the Anishinaabe, the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota, and on the traditional homeland of the Métis. This is also treated for territory. The U of R also has a presence on Treaty 6. I know that some of you may be there as well. Just a note that we're recording this event. The formal part will stop, if I remember, before the Q&A, and then it'll be shared on the U of R's YouTube channel. We have a nice playlist for HRI where you can see some of the past presentations. Our presenter today is Dr. Glenn Sutter. Glenn is curator of human ecology at the Royal Saskatchewan Museum and an adjunct professor of geography and environmental studies at the U of R. Through his curatorial work, he tries to help people and communities foster a culture of sustainability so that we can all live well on a limited planet. He also explores sustainability issues as a performing songwriter, and you can find him online at glennsutter, 2Ns&2Ts.com. Quick housekeeping, I'll be hosting the session, keeping everybody's microphones off. You can help me with that, of course. I encourage you to ask questions if you have them through the chat function during the presentation if you want, but we'll have an actual Q&A period at the end where we'll have more of a dialogue. So I might call on you to actually ask them out loud at that point. That is as much as I dare to say at this point. I'm very eager to hear Glenn, and I'll turn the virtual floor to him now.
Great, thank you, Jerome, and welcome everybody. I appreciate the chance to talk to you about a program and some research I've been involved in for the last 4 or 5 years now. And I'm really happy, I have to say, to see friends and almost family online here. With Catherine Arbuthnot, of course, please step in, Catherine, if anything I say about the research is wrong, because Catherine has been leading the way on this. And and also nice to see Kristen, Living Heritage Officer for Heritage Sask, who I know well. And my old thesis supervisor, Mark Brigham, hanging out in the corner. Your ears might burn too, Mark, because I hope I remember to thank you for part of this, because you'd have had a hand in some of the work. So with that, I've got about half an hour of material lined up, I think. And my aim is to simply provide some context about what we're doing at the museum through this program, and also tell you, of course, what it's about and some of the insights that we're learning about creativity and nature connection. So with that, I will share my screen, and hopefully it comes up. There. Can you give me a thumbs up, Jerome, if you're seeing the slides? Cool. Well, as Jerome mentioned, I'm curator of human ecology at the Royal Sask Museum. I've been in that position over almost 25 years now, and had a chance to explore many different aspects of human ecology. Of course, I got my degree with Mark initially in biology and was hired by the museum to look after some of their collections. I quickly got very interested in the role that museums can play in larger sustainability education issues, as you'll see in a second. And I've kind of gravitated my research in that direction ever since. the particular program I'm going to talk about is mostly aimed, or is entirely aimed, really at this notion of what our connection to nature actually means and how valuable it is around some of the things that we're dealing with in the world. So I want to just sketch out the context, I said, and as I mentioned, and really my research boils down to two main questions or topics, and that is that we're aware, of course, that the world is generally on a fairly unsustainable path, and we have lots of growing mountains of evidence to suggest that, from climate change to loss of species, all these things. And we also know that these things are really expressions of very complex systems, social and ecological. So one important way to appreciate these topics is to apply systems thinking. That's one of my main areas of interest, always has been. And also bringing it down to the human and societal cultural level is that my position on this really, and I think, is that sustainability concerns are applying a lot of selective pressure on us as a species. And so I'm interested in how these pressures actually might be fostering some sort of cultural evolution, for better or worse. But we're not going to evolve physically, I think, in response to these, but culturally we might. And it's a pretty ripe area for research, as I'm finding. As you see, it's probably hard to read this part of the slide, but culture in this sense includes a lot of different elements, so there's lots of areas to sort of tap into it. And the other sort of model I live and breathe by is this suggestion that sustainability is this thing that's actually, it's often said to have social, economic, environmental dimensions to it, and I can appreciate that. What I prefer to see it as something that's actually needing to rest on a foundation of culture, which defined here around values and behaviors, lifestyles, beliefs. And it certainly has those social and economic dimensions, and it's all happening within the larger environment, of course. But by saying it's actually a cultural challenge for us, then that does open the way, as Pilgrim here suggests, that if we want to revitalize an eco-social system or the culture associated with it, there are so many ways to get at it, through food, healthcare, tourism. I'm sure Kristen would recognize these as aspects of living heritage in many ways. So this is a useful template I've found that it kind of helps me rationalize my work and pull it back to the larger questions. And so my central premise is that in order to live sustainably as a collective, as a global village, we really need to transform our cultures in ways that outcompete norms that might be leading us in unsustainable directions. And it's a recent work in economics has suggested that we actually are aiming for this light green donut, which is defined as a safe and just space for humanity. That's keeping things within the certain environmental ceilings that we've crashed through in a few places already. I mentioned a few at the start. But we also need to provide an important social foundation for society through employment and good fresh water education, a number of the things that are indicated in this diagram. So my focus in all of this is through place-based education. And I've always seen that the aim of sustainability education is this mitigation or adaptation to the challenges we face. And I think I always see it as having three different aspects: looking at the whole community, looking at institutions like museums and universities, I would argue, and also at the personal level. Where is this education coming down for each of us as individuals? And really, it's the personal level here that I want to focus on and pull up right away the research question that we're dealing with. And I say we, that includes Catherine Arbuthnot from Campion College. She and I have been teaming up around this project, the Songs for Nature project. right since its inception, and we've been helped out by some great students and other researchers along the way. So this is the central question, whether being creative actually affects our connection to nature and can enhance, or at least affect, our emotional well-being, hopefully enhance it. And the thing I'm going to be talking about is this program, Songs for Nature, seen here balancing on a fairly rickety dock down in Moose Mountain Provincial Park. I want to provide a few quick details about it, mainly that with putting quick words of thanks out to the people who've stepped up and been part of it right from the start. The three folks here, Megan, Ryan, and Kara, are all fantastic songwriters from here in Saskatchewan. In fact, you may recognize all their names, especially Megan's, because she just was nominated for Juno last year. And Joyce, who's also my wife, and she's a fantastic researcher and runs a creative writing process called True Nature Writing. She's also been playing a big role in the project. And of course, we've got financial support, and as that just comes up, I realize we're missing two. We just got some money from Sask Energy and Sask Outdoors as well. So my thanks to the funders. None of this would happen without them. On the research side, we're starting with a number of observations that exposure to even sort of artificial nature, like in a natural history museum, can help people feel more connected and have enhanced well-being. Also that if we actually get into nature, it seems to have increasing our creative spark. We wanted to test that. And well-being, of course, as well. So the question is, if we're writing music in a natural setting, could these things actually work together and interact? And actually, the process of writing music could mediate a little bit in how we experience nature and benefit from it. So, why songs is a question that always comes up, and I realize that to call it an accessible type of creativity might not always apply, but we've generally found that in lots of people have a musical streak they're interested in writing poetry, which can turn into lyrics. There's many ways for it to sort of be realized, and the nice thing is to write a song. Really, you just need your mind to come up with some melodies and a pen and a notebook to record things, to get a sense to get it started. And it also requires, of course, things that are accessible. We can all sort of observe what's around us and take time to reflect on it. It requires some motivation in order to sort of decide on a theme to address and how you're going to explore it. There's many ways from your phone to I use voice memos on my phone all the time to capture ideas. And when the muse does kind of show up, she's very slippery and she doesn't hang around very often. So it's good to have ways to capture ideas. And of course, it's also important to have a bit of a tough skin as you write songs and get feedback on it. These are your emotional labors being put out there. So it's good to be able to survive the feedback you get. And then just rinse and repeat is what I find. It just, once you've caught the bug, which I caught about 15 years ago, it really becomes quite an enjoyable thing to pursue. But there are other reasons also to focus on songs. There's lots of literature about how emotive songs can be and how they can, that's what makes people stand up at the start of a hockey game, right? It's that when that anthem comes on, they can be both positive and negative emotions, of course. There's plenty of military marches that have been used to send people off to horrible wars and aggression. But so there's no doubt about the emotional power of music, and it can also have lasting impacts. It would just take a minute to play a second to play the start of "Can't Get No Satisfaction" by the Stones, and that hook would be with you It stays where the earworm effect is real. It gets in your head and can stay with you. So it's a nice way to sort of capture images or tell stories. There are plenty of ways, like The Gambler by Kenny Rogers tells an incredible story through music, and it doesn't require 15 minutes. He tells that story in 3.5 minutes. It's pretty remarkable. Also, it's a way to convey a message. I've found as a performer, when I have established a connection with an audience, it's a wonderful experience it's a wonderful opportunity to really connect. And then if there's a message behind what you're trying to say in a song, it can come through. The example there is from one of my own songs called Weight of the World. And the other side of this is I didn't even know what that song was going to be about when I was writing it until I came to write the bridge. And this line came out, "Love will carry the day," which became, in my mind, has become the main point of that song. I didn't know what it was about when I started it, but it's sort of, there's that internal process too that can kind of clarify things. And it's all around the songwriting process. So with that context, what we've basically floated a number of hypotheses that having people pursue songs in nature, songwriting in nature, would lead to increased creativity, picking up on the works shown here. It would have positive effects on our emotions, less stress, and increase our connections to nature. And there's a number of measures that were brought to bear on this. Catherine can give you chapter and verse on these, but basically I just wanted to point out that there are really effective, well-tested tools to look at how creative people are being or feeling at the moment, where their emotional state is, and the connection to nature, both in terms of the self, but also the larger connections through experience and at the community or collective level. So that's the basis of the approach we took, and so then we just had to get the program up and running. With the overall methods involved doing surveys before and after the different camps I'm going to talk about in a second. But we also conducted interviews and did some qualitative analysis on those, which I'll mention right at the end. And it's important that these camps are open to all experience levels of songwriting, from some very accomplished songwriters to people who could just starting to carry a tune or didn't even think they could carry a tune or not even playing an instrument. All experiences levels are involved in this. This time in the camp, of course, is spent talking about songwriting, going on hikes and sort of immersing in nature in that way. And of course, campfire sessions. Campfires are incredible times to connect and sort of enjoy the experience. We also have these sessions that really are focused on personal creativity directly, and this is I put in the True Nature writing programs that Joyce offers as an example. They've proven to be a very special and valuable and appreciated part of each camp. So, and we run these we have been running them before COVID as retreats, where we go off to nice natural settings on a Thursday and come back on Sunday. We actually have done some online sessions. We're in the middle of one right now, actually. Let's talk more about that in a second. And also with each camp, there's a focus on getting the group to work together and produce a song together as a co-write, which is no small feat in some cases, because we've had up to 20 people in one of these camps, and that's a lot of minds and cats to herd around one idea and come up with some kind of creative product. And there's also a wind-up show, because we really want to help people not just explore what they've done, but share it and to the biggest audience that we can muster. So you can find out more about all of this stuff through our socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And also at the website. We have a general website, songsfornature.ca if you want to see more. As I mentioned, the program has been around for about 5 years. It started back in 2015, actually, but we started with a camp aimed at high school students out at Last Mountain Lake, and have tried to actually run other youth camps. But frankly, it's like pulling teeth to get through the teachers, to get to the students, to attract there's lots of interested students out there, but the question is, how do you get to them? So we've focused more on adult camps, and as you see, we've been at Last Mountain Lake a number of times, both at the regional park and the National Wildlife Area, and Arlington Beach, which is on the shores of Last Mountain. We've also been out to Moose Mountain, and down in the southeast, and we're aiming to get up to Prince Albert in the fall. We wanted to get up there this spring, but of course not able to do that. And we have run one online camp. We'd run our first last summer, and now we're right in the middle of our first winter camp. One of the benefits of COVID, I guess, is it's teaching us how to be online and run a camp like this completely online, even though it's minus 6 million outside. Also, I wanted to point out there have been some presentations and papers coming out of this already, so if you want to read more about it, I can send some of that stuff your way. I do want to flip over now and talk about some of the results, with just a quick point about the fact that some amazing songs come out of this work. This is some lyrics from a song called Awakening, one of the group songs. And if there's interest at the end, I can go over to, I can play the lyric video that was put together for this, just as an example. You can hear what it's like to, when a group gets together and produces a song like this. And if you just read through some of these lyrics, you'll appreciate there is a impressive and authentic level of creative expression happening there. Thistle a little rough round the edge is an immediate image. It's one of my favorite lines. The bulrushes tell me slow down. Again, that's the fact that a group decided to use that as a line and created that is quite amazing. So there are plenty of songs that are produced. Everyone usually comes out of a camp with a song plus the group song. So there's no shortage of wonderful music to appreciate. It's all available on the website. On the research side, I just want to touch on this because it's a pretty rich area, and we're getting a lot of more data from the current camp to walk through. But I did want to put a couple examples up. These are results from our youth camp looking at negative emotions, and this is the mean rating around anxiety, stress, and depression. The first two bars here are the before and after the camp. And we've also been able to compare that to before and after songwriting that happened in a classroom. They weren't in nature. And you'll appreciate there's a significant decrease here in anxiety, some decline in the classroom setting, but much higher in the natural setting, and especially around stress. You see again, there's a small effect here, but quite substantial around stress and depression. So these are valuable results back to educators who are trying to address some of these, especially stress. It's a significant issue with young people. So the notion of getting them into nature and helping them be creative is sort of supported by these results. The same sort of results are shown here around nature relatedness, how they're connecting to nature, and you see quite a spike around the self compared to being in the classroom. And that might happen anyway with the being in nature being the difference here, but I'll say more about that in a second. And this, both the perspective and experience aspects of this measure are also showing the same trend, and the overall total connection to nature also goes up with the teens. And we're finding, if we flip over to adults now, the same sort of nature relatedness results. We're seeing the same sort of increase before and after the camp. And in this case, This is where I can thank Mark because he helped make this happen. We have results from an animal behavior class, I think it was, that was out at Cypress Hills at the biology camp there, and they agreed to do a pre and post, the same pre and post tests for us, and you'll see a much less increase, especially around perspective, quite a substantial increase here, and total increase, or total, a real jump. So even though all of these groups are in nature, we're seeing an even more substantial effect when they're actually being asked to do something that's creative in this musical sense. Why? I mean, people are being very creative when they're at a animal behavior science camp too, but there's obviously something interesting happening here. And also we're seeing the same sort of thing around creative reasoning. Maybe Catherine can explain and deal what the RAT test is, but it basically has to, I think it's random association test, where you're associating two words together and then adding something that associates with them. It's a really cool way to assess creativity. And we're just looking at the means here. Again, for the Songs for Nature Camp, pre and post, and then the animal behavior students, you see quite a substantial enhancement in creativity for the around the Songs for Nature camp, sort of bringing them up to where the animal behavior folks were already. So we're getting some really interesting, solid data from these camps, and it's helped us to both attract funding for it, and I think has opened up a number of other avenues for research, which I'll talk about in just a second. Before getting into that, I just wanted to say quickly that we do have qualitative data here as well, and we've sort of looked at different themes. Some of the big ones that come out have been around sense of place, home or community, the emotions that people are feeling during a camp. You see a number of them listed there. Reflections on the creative process itself, how the opportunity to spend time like this at a camp is affecting them, and different aspects that are coming to mind for them. There's certainly a level of self-awareness, because music or songwriting especially is kind of like that. It's a very intimate, personal pursuit in many cases. And importantly, it's not just at the personal, it's going up to the relationship that people feel with others in the camp, others in their world, and beyond the human world to what's around them and what can never be known, the larger spiritual ideas. All of this sort of has been mentioned through the interviews. So we're busy trying to we have the start of a grounded theory. It's not anything I would want to do much with yet, but it really sort of makes the point that nature is sort of there to prime a lot of experiences that has a raft of important and really interesting effects. So for next steps, just to wind this down, as I mentioned, we're running a camp now. Its focus is on resilience because we're in the middle of a winter from hell. Now that would actually be warm, wouldn't it? A winter from the North Pole. And we're going to do a wind-up show on March 5th. That's all on Zoom. Everyone's zoomed out, I know, but if you want to take that in, please keep an eye for it, and I can let Jerome know when it's going to happen so we can pass things along. It's always nice to have people show up for that. We are asking research questions mostly around hope as part of that camp. And I think I mentioned already that we're going to be doing, hopefully, an in-person camp this fall up in Prince Albert. We're also focused on actually we've produced a lot of the songs already and lyric videos for them, so we want to put out an EP so that's available and people can enjoy the songs that way. And importantly, we're going to include all of the lyric videos for the group songs in an exhibit, a new exhibit that I'm working on at the museum, which is called Home, Life in the Anthropocene, which it was due to open this year, but we pushed it back a year, thank God, thankfully. So it's due to open spring 2022. So if you go to the museum now, there's still a listening station where you can hear some of the songs and get a better sense of what the program has been about. And of course, you can also check things out online through our website.